This is a short presentation about what research says about digital reading and writing. And I get the ideas for this PowerPoint are from Donald Liu, University of Connecticut, and Julie Coro. She was one of his doctoral students, I believe. I think she might be at the University of Georgia now, but I don't think she's at Connecticut anymore. So, three issues are ignored in public policies about online literacies. One is literacies rapidly changing. I'm not familiar with this word, didact, but it means that the meaning of a word or utterance depends on the context and what it appears. So I could say, for example, I love pizza pie. So I'm talking about how much I enjoy food. But if I love my mother or I love my wife, that's a very different meaning of love. The sentence, change the context changes the meaning. So that's all didact means. And so online reading and writing require additional skills than conventional reading and writing. So we need to learn. We need to break the code. We need to learn to retell, comprehend, summarize, ask questions with conventional reading, amongst many other skills. But with digital reading requires additional skills, and some of these will be identified in a subsequent slide. So the main difference is that digital reading uses the same skills and more as conventional print. And people are still arguing that there's a great misalignment between public policies, assessments, and instruction. So public policy right now, digital literacy is included in the writing standards, the anchor standards in writing, in two of those standards, I forget the numbers now, and also in one of the reading standards. But digital literacy isn't taught and it isn't assessed. So again, literacy is context dependent, didact. The meaning changes in context, and new literacies and new social practices are appearing all the time. So this course is an example of it, I think, that there are many tools that I learned this year from over last year. Things are always evolving, and so that's important. To be literate today often means using blogs, wikis, tweets, and so on, things we've done in this course. I'm going to go back to that second bubble, that the literacies are changing all the time, and just add one comment. If you think about from the Middle Ages until about 15 or 20 years ago, literacy really hasn't changed a lot. The printing press, I picked the Middle Ages because I forget when the printing press, Gutenberg's printing press, was invented in the 1400s or something, and that made literacy accessible to the population rather than just to a few. And I think another major step in literacy was the printing hardcover books and printing paperbacks, so that people had easy access to materials. So here are some of the skills that reading online requires. Now, some of these skills might be in conventional reading, but there's a greater emphasis in digital reading. You need to know how to locate, evaluate, and synthesize information when you're reading digitally. Reading online, people read online a lot to answer questions. So, an iPhone or something, you'll be talking with a friend about the name of a movie, you'll quickly Google the name of the movie, and you'll be able to answer a question. You often use, another characteristic of reading online is the emphasis of locating information. So you use search terms, search engines, and that's quite different than conventional reading. A requirement of reading online, which we address some this week with that the first activity related to Pacific website is the need to read for accuracy, reliability, and bias. And children don't always know that, and it needs to be emphasized in schools how to critically evaluate a website, just as you have done for this course. And then because we have such easy and quick access to multiple text, there's a greater demand for synthesizing information. And so that skill was required with conventional reading. But for me to get multiple texts on a subject, I had to go to the library, I had to go to the bookstore prior to the computer. But now I get so much information at a click of a button. It's just crazy, right? And then we read to communicate information, read and write. We share what we've learned with others. We work with others. We discuss. So we use Twitter. We use Wiki. We use discussion boards. So that's very different than conventional reading and writing, when you'd have to telephone or be face to face with a person to share, or I suppose you could write a letter. I didn't require it. Well, it's listed as required reading, but I didn't really attend to it for this week's activities. But that article by Chandler Alcott that's listed under the 10th week, it's the first piece I've read by her. She's from Syracuse University, and she gives you some ideas on how to critically evaluate discussion boards. And I thought it was really good. There were fresh ideas, and I might sometime in the next week or two share some of what's in that article. If you're a middle or secondary school teacher, there's lots of lesson ideas that spring from that. Basically, you copy some discussion boards or posts to anything you see online, and you analyze the kinds of contributions the writers have added. Some big characteristics of online reading: it's very self-directed. You're going from page to one site to the next site, and we follow different links, all right? And it can be collaborative and social as we're sharing things with one another. So in terms of students in schools, many students lack the skills for critically reading online. They're not taught them in their schools. The schools often don't have the resources, and teachers don't have the knowledge. Overall, schools have not integrated digital literacies into their assessments, even though they're in the standards. But I think you'll see a change in that in a few years. And students in our poorer schools have less access and less instruction with digital literacies than wealthier districts. So I tried to make that as quick as I could, and I hope you find it helpful. The resources are Donald Wu primarily and Julie Cora.